Eu estou nesse momento com a Amanda Weiss, ela é diretora do Bible Lands Museum, um centro que guarda uma grande coleção de arqueologia bíblica aqui em Israel. Nós vamos conhecer uma parte dessa coleção e também o propósito desse museu, como ele começou, um pouco da sua história. Amanda, muito obrigado por nos dar essa entrevista. É muito bom estar com você. Amanda, diga para nós como esse museu começou, como tudo surgiu e por que esse nome, Bible Lands Museum.
The name of the museum is very much the vision of the founder of the museum, the late Dr. Eli Borowski. And his vision was that you cannot read the Bible and just look at one small piece of geography and think you understand. Just the same way you cannot read one chapter of the Bible or one verse and know the whole Bible. You must read and understand that the lands of the Bible, which was a tremendous geographical period in land and place in the ancient world, is the history of humanity as we know it today, the roots of civilization. The Bible is our history book. Here in Israel, we teach Bible from the first grade. The youngest children learn Bible, whether they're in a religious school or a secular school, because the Bible is our history. So the Bible Lands Museum was created to show the history of all of the lands of the Bible and to give an opportunity for people to truly understand our history.
Você teve o privilégio de ser filha do Dr. Eli Borowski, um homem apaixonado pela Bíblia e pela história da Bíblia. Conte pra gente como foi ser filho desse homem, o que você aprendeu na sua infância.
So I had the privilege of spending many years of my life very closely with Dr. Eli Borowski. I'm not his daughter by birth, and he and my mother married, and I was young. I was in my early 20s, and he was a grandfather to my children, and we grew up in this atmosphere of the creation of this museum, built on his knowledge. He was trained in the finest schools of Europe. He was born in Warsaw in 1913. By the time Hitler came to power and this very dark period in Jewish history, in European Jewish history, began, Eli was already ordained as a rabbi, and he went on to study at the greatest universities in Europe, including at the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Rome and at the Sorbonne in Paris. He believed that it was more than just his own Jewish history that he needed to understand, but the greater influences, including the cultural world of the classical world, on Judaism and that cultural relationship. So for Eli, it was a very turbulent time in Europe. And by the time I met him, he had already established himself as one of the world's greatest collectors of antiquities that are the evidence of the cultures of the lands of the Bible, which you as a collector and someone who understands this can relate to that passion. He was driven, and I saw and learned from him that passion and devotion to who we are, an honesty and an integrity as a human being, and a devotion to not his own grandeur or personal ego, and people looked at him and said, why do you want to build a museum in Jerusalem? Why would you want to do that? You must be on some kind of an ego trip. It must be for your own personal. And if you look, the front of the museum doesn't have his name on it. And as a matter of fact, we're standing next to a stone that when we opened this museum 25 years ago in May, we opened this museum on May the 11th, 1992. This was the only place that his name appeared. Almost every piece of antiquity that you will see in the Bible Lands Museum was collected by him personally. He knew the history of each piece, and each piece for him was a witness to our history and helped us put the Bible in its historical context.
Wonderful. É muito interessante porque o seu pai era um acadêmico, um grande acadêmico, e que não teve vergonha da sua fé. Tanto é que vocês colocaram aqui na porta do museu que esse museu tem o propósito de glorificar e santificar o grande nome de Deus. Fale um pouco sobre o que está escrito aqui.
So, magnified and sanctified be the great name of God, and the words that follow here are actually a combination of a prayer in Judaism that we always say, the Kaddish prayer. And he dedicates this house to his family. His family also being his own personal family. So if you read it, to our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to my brothers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because he had brothers named Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who perished in the Holocaust, to Razel and my sister Fela and their children, to all our brothers and sisters martyred. To their sacred memory we shall be devoted, and for future generations. And in the Hebrew prayer we read, to prepare our hearts to discern, right? To hearken, to learn and to teach, to know our past, to understand and to love each other, and adore knowledge and the glory of God, to walk in the paths of peace. This house is lovingly dedicated. In one very poetic combination of a very important Hebrew prayer and also its relevance to his own personal family tragedies and his own vision, and as you say, not with shame, but with vision. He has dedicated this house, this museum, as a universal center for people of all faiths to come and learn about our history and learn about the Bible. That's what the Bible Lands Museum is about.
Isso é maravilhoso, porque nós vivemos numa época de grande ceticismo, até mesmo apresentado por teólogos que ensinam a Bíblia e que costumam dizer que a Bíblia é um livro de mitos, de lendas, que nada daquilo aconteceu. Qual a sua opinião sobre a Bíblia enquanto um livro de história?
So the Bible is our history book. Now, there are many arguments out there today, and there are many different theories. There isn't a piece found and pulled out of the ground by archaeologists today that doesn't get multiple theories immediately that come out about it, and many people that say it couldn't possibly be true. Even the most important finds that have been discovered in the last 20, 30 years in Israel have all been approached with a certain skepticism. Maybe it's not real. Maybe somebody created that inscription and then buried it under the ground, which when you dig properly and scientifically in layers, you know, as I do, that it's been found in situ, and therefore it's what we would say in Hebrew is kosher. It's correct. And every piece is a revelation, because I see it that every single piece is one more piece of the puzzle to understanding the historicity of the Bible. Right? The fact that we haven't yet found the journey of the Exodus from Egypt, and people say, therefore, there must not have been an Exodus from Egypt, I don't buy that theory. My attitude is, we have not yet found it, but we will, and we will discover it. Look, just in the last few years, Professor Joseph Garfinkel from the Hebrew University excavated a little tiny hilltop that people have been walking by for centuries, for millennia, and he started digging there and discovered that it's from the time of King David. Now, okay, some people said that's crazy, it couldn't possibly be. What did he find? We eat a lot of olives in Israel. Food is very important to us. And olives happens to be a staple, and olives are indigenous to this area. He found carbonized olive pits at the base layers of the excavation. He sent them off for carbon-14 dating. Contemporary science of the 21st century dated these little tiny things that we would spit out and throw away to this day to the time of the 10th century, 1000 before the Common Era, the time of King David. Right? So all of a sudden we have archaeology, we have biblical narrative, which gives us right between Azekah and Soho, the biblical sites, there was a battle, a very famous battle, between whom? David and Goliath, right? So we have an exhibition on right now in the Valley of David and Goliath about the finds from this site. And the most important finds dug up at the Kirbet Kiafa site, which Garfinkel believes is the biblical Sha'arayim. Out of respect for science and academia, we are not calling it Sha'arayim because we cannot yet prove that it was the biblical Sha'arayim, but we do raise the question in the exhibition, and many people that are biblical archaeologists today believe that this truly is. We need more evidence, obviously, more digging and more finding to know for sure, but this is one of those incredible sites where we see history, archaeology, and Bible come together. And when you see this exhibition, there are very few words that we wrote on the walls. What you see are biblical quotes. It's already been written. Exactly what we know about this site in the Elah Valley where David walked and David fought Goliath, we know from the Bible. And the archaeology and the evidence is proving it to us. So for me, it is an opportunity to bring the Bible to life. And what we do here at the Bible Lands Museum is we create exhibitions. And of course, our main exhibition is all about the development of civilization in this region. And we are the Bible Lands Museum, and we go with a broad stroke into even early Christianity, because the power of the Bible to have influenced Christianity and even Islam as its source, as its root, the Jewish roots of Christianity in particular, is something that we have a tremendously strong audience here for. And we hope that many people seeing your show will know about this museum and come and see the tremendous treasures that we have on display at the museum.
Agora, antes de nós podermos entrar e conhecer a coleção do museu, eu queria saber um pouquinho sobre o futuro do Bible Lands Museum, porque eu sei que vocês estão crescendo. Quais são os planos futuros do museu?
We're celebrating our 25th anniversary, and it gives us an opportunity to look forward, not just back. It's nostalgic for me personally and for many of us that are part of the family that built this museum, but for the future we have tremendous dreams and vision. We have a plan to build and expand the museum with a building that is actually 4 times the existing building, to enable us exhibitions that are much more pertinent and relevant to our audiences more and more today. We want to recreate and reinstall our main exhibition so the biblical narrative is even stronger and understood by every visitor that comes through here. In the concept and the vision of my late stepfather, of Dr. Eli Borowski, this museum is designed to be universal, to be here for people of all faiths. So by creating exhibitions in the future that enlighten our understanding of the great empires of the ancient world and their influences, of archaeology in the land of Israel and in our surrounding nations, because we are today, as we always have been, at the crossroads of the ancient world. Right? Yes. When we follow the story of Abraham and his journey, and we look at where was he born, he was born between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in what is today modern-day Iraq, in southern Mesopotamia. And the journey that he took brought him here and down into Egypt, and then he came back to the Promised Land. And that journey of Abraham is a journey that we see repeat itself, that quest for religious freedom, that quest for a Jewish homeland and a Jewish state, or a Christian and a Judeo-Christian state that speaks to all people, is the history that we put on display here at the Bible Lands Museum. The future of the museum is to strengthen our educational programming, our cultural programming, create exhibitions that can also travel around the world, and also welcome exhibitions from abroad to be on display here. We are a center for education. We're a center for culture, and we welcome people of all faiths. And our educational programming includes programming in Arabic, because it is one of the national languages, and we have children from East Jerusalem that are Muslim children that speak Arabic coming through here every week. We have thousands of students from the Arab sector, not only from the Jewish sector, because our cultural heritage is all of our cultural heritage. And that's the message of this museum, that we are a museum for everyone. And whether you're a pilgrim coming from Brazil and speaking Brazilian Portuguese, which we do have guided tours in Brazilian Portuguese, you should know. Unfortunately, I am not able to speak Brazilian Portuguese, but we do have. And we actually have tours that are in the footsteps of the Bible in the museum. And that's something that we've created in order to be here for people. And our goal is to enrich and expand and grow what we can show here in the museum. Our collections, so many things are behind closed doors because we have no room to put them. And it's such a shame, and we have so much to show and so much to do.
Agora, então, nós vamos conhecer uma parte da coleção do Bible Lands Museum, uma parte muito especial de Herbert Keiafa. Nós já estivemos em Herbert Keiafa com a nossa equipe, você deve se lembrar, porque passamos aqui no programa Evidências. E agora nós vamos, então, conhecer alguns objetos que foram escavados ali e como deveria ser aquela cidade quando foi vista pelos antigos que ali moraram. Eu estou aqui com o professor Yehuda Kaplan, que é o curador desse museu e vai nos dar aqui o prazer de conhecer esta coleção. Professor, thank you for receiving us here. It's a pleasure to be here in our museum, okay?
Our pleasure.
Explain for us what is this special collection exhibition that you have here?
This is an amazing exhibition because for the first time the public has the opportunity to see the amazing finds from this enigmatic site of Khirbet Kiafa in the valley of David and Goliath, in the Elah Valley. So not only that you can see here the artifacts themselves, the very special ones, but also we try to imitate some of the areas in this ancient city dating 3,000 years from today.
Wow. Then we are in the gate of the city, one of the gates of the
Right.
city.
This is the southern gate of the city, and at the front of us we can see a real find. This massive stone block was found inside one of the 4 rooms of the gates, and it has no relationship to the structure itself. It was standing free in the middle of the space. So the archaeologists believe that this might have been a standing stone. So we're talking about here maybe about a small shrine that was in the gate.
Interesting. A small shrine, and there is in the Bible some verse or some passage that may be related with that?
Absolutely. The quotation that we see here above is not from the time of the city, it's much later, from the end years of the kingdom of Judah. But we talk about the famous reform, cultic reform of King Josiah, when he demolished all the shrines around the kingdom, and the cult was only in one place, one legitimate place, which is of course the temple in Jerusalem. And in the description of this reform in the book of Kings, we read that he demolished the shrines of the gates. So we know that there is a biblical phenomenon of shrine of the gates. A very interesting shrine was also found in the gate of Lachish, the famous gate of Tel Lachish. They found another shrine. So we see that this probably was a phenomena in the gates of the cities of Judah.
Very interesting. We have also the same phenomena in Tel Dan. You
Right.
near that near the gate you have altar.
Right.
Then you have a culture in a lot of cities of that time.
We have to remember that the gate was the gate and the gate area was the most important public area. So the people were coming and going from the city, and into the city they were passing through the gates and the gate square, which we're going to see next. And this was the perfect place maybe to have a central cultic area, like a small shrine or a standing stone, which another standing stone was found also in the gate square inside the city.
That is what I would like to ask you. Where is the gate, the public area after the gate? Can you show us something that they found
I want
there?
to invite you to enter into the city and see it in your own eyes.
Okay,
Please
let's
follow
go.
me.
Let's go to see. Oh, we have a lot of potteries here from different people. I see here the Philistine, the Egyptians. Can you explain for us quickly which are each one of these artifacts here?
We are now located in the gate square of the city. This was probably the place where the main market was. So the market is a place where people meet from outside the city with the people inside.
Oh.
And the people trade and they bring their own cultures. So that's the reason why we placed those artifacts here. For example, here you can see typical Philistine
Philistine.
pottery. It's called the Ashdod ware.
Interesting, because this is from the production of beer.
Right, it's called a beer jug.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was used to pour the liquid, the Coca-Cola of the ancient world.
Yes,
And
the
what
Philistine was so proud about the beer that they produced.
Right. And what's interesting here that if you compare this pottery, which is very decorated, it's painted, it has the black and white lines, with the typical local pottery that you see everywhere in the site, you can see that there was influence. The big question is, if you see here Philistine pottery, does it mean that this was a Philistine city maybe? Because remember, we are located in the borderline between the area of Judah and the area of Philistia. The hometown of Goliath, Gat Tel Safi, is only 12 kilometers west from Kiafa. So that is one of the big questions. So here the statistics come inside, because there is some Philistine pottery, but the amount of it is very, very minimal. Actually, less than 2% of the overall of 1,000 artifacts that were found, pottery artifacts that were found, you can say that it is from Philistine origin. So we have the Philistine influence, but probably the inhabitants themselves were not
Philistine.
Exactly.
But we have also artifacts coming from Egypt.
Yeah,
Then you have an Egyptian presence or influence in the site also.
Yeah, it's very minimal, of course, because this is one very, very unusual artifact that was found. It is made of alabaster, and the vessel itself is from Egyptian origin. So maybe it was imported, maybe it was traded because it was a luxurious item.
Of course.
It's not typical for what we find.
And alabaster was so expensive.
Absolutely.
So this was not a common artifact that you find there, but some gift that someone received or brought there. It's fantastic.
The same goes for the basalt, because basalt is a volcanic stone, rock. It is not found in this region. You have to bring it from the north of Israel, from the Golan Heights, from the eastern Galilee. So again, we see that there was trade, there was relationship with the outside, the neighbors, the close neighbors, but also the far neighbors. We have here, for example, evidence of a Cypriotic
ceramic,
which is very from far away. It's overseas.
And so expensive also, just like the Egyptian alabaster.
Right.
Well, we are now in the public area, okay?
So I want to invite you now to enter into one of the houses.
Yes, it is. I would like to know.
Host you in one of the houses.
Yes, I don't want to remain in the public area. Okay.
It will be a short visit.
Okay, thank you. Oh, do you have a model of a house here?
Yeah, this is a model of one of the houses that was excavated near the southern gate that we just saw. And it has typical features of most of the houses that were excavated, and there are several of those houses. For example, all the houses were built abutting the casemate wall. So this is the wall, and you can see two rooms here, which are actually living rooms, but they are also located in a public area because the wall is the public area of the city. Another feature, important feature, is this open space, an open yard, which served as a kitchen, place for preparing food and also for having the livestock. Now this specific house C3, was elected because it has also another very interesting feature here. This space, in this space, they found cultic vessels. So the interpretation is that this served as a shrine inside the house or a cultic room.
Some kind of private religion?
We do not know exactly what was their religion. One thing that the excavators say and mention is that they did not find, for example, any idols inside the houses. So what was the religion there? That's a big question. So shrines inside the houses is something that you find also in a very famous biblical story in the book of Judges, chapter 18, when the tribe of Dan is seeking for a new place to settle, and they go in the mountain of Ephraim, and there they meet a man by the name of Micah, and he's having his own priest Levite in his own house.
In that situation, they has idols.
Yeah,
home idols.
There are the
but here we did not find
almost maybe one small piece, but there is not a phenomenon that you see idols.
How many houses do you have in Hirbet Keyafa with private shrines?
Only three.
Only three.
This is one of three. So we have the public areas with cultic activity in the gate and the gate square, in the southern gate, and also in three of the houses.
Can we see first the kitchen and after the...
Yeah, let's go and eat something in the kitchen.
Okay, with a great idea. No próximo programa Evidências, continuaremos o nosso passeio pelo Bible Lands Museum em companhia do curador e especialista Yehuda Kaplan. Você conhecerá mais dessa coleção que ajuda a confirmar e compreender a historicidade da Bíblia Sagrada. Portanto, não perca o nosso próximo encontro aqui na TV Novo Tempo.